Gary Stearman with another Prophecy in the News update. It's Friday, June 11th, and I'm going to talk about an Israel festival calendar event that is rarely spoken of, but I think it's very significant on a prophetic level. As you know, Middle East authorities for a long time now, 2 or 3 months at least, have been talking about a quote-unquote summer war that could be coming to Israel. Back in, for example, I'm picking out a couple of stories here. Back in April 18th to be specific, Debka Files talked about Hezbollah launching an attack on Israel from the northern border. And they say this about that war. In actual fact, a Middle East war this summer depends on 2 actions which have nothing to do with the Palestinians. First would be a decision by the United States and or Israel to strike Iran's nuclear facilities. The second would be a decision in Tehran to unleash its allies against Israel. And those allies, of course, would be Syria, would be Jordan, would be Turkey, and on and on. But in the news, you find reference to a summer war. And I thought it would be interesting for you to note that many of Israel's major cataclysms have fallen in the summertime in the past. In fact, there is a period on the Jewish calendar called the dark time, and it occurs every summer between the 17th of Tammuz and the 9th of Av. It's a 3-week period. So the period is called by the Jews either the 3 weeks or the dark time. And let me suggest that what's being called a summer war could possibly fall during this period. The fast of the 17th of Tammuz is a minor fast day. Fasting is only required from sunrise to sunset on that day, and the only prohibition of that fast is on eating and drinking. But it kicks off a 3-week period, and this period of mourning is known as the dark time, or in Hebrew, Bien HaMetzrim, which means between the straits. That is, between these 2 fast days, the 17th of Tammuz and the 9th of Av. And during this 3-week period, every summer, no weddings or other joyous celebrations can be held, particularly those involving anything like festive music. Some people do not cut their hair. Some people, the very religious Jews, don't even take baths. They turn the chairs in their houses upside down so that they'll have no comfortable place to sit. They take this fasting period very, very seriously. It is for them a period of mourning which becomes more and more pronounced as the fasting period proceeds toward the 9th of Av, Tisha B'Av, which occurs this year on July 20th. I should say that the 3 weeks this summer occupy the period between June 29th and July 20th. The 9th of Av, which terminates this 3 weeks or dark time, stands out from other fasts related to Israel because it commemorates the destruction of both temples. The temple of David and Solomon and the temple of Herod were both destroyed on the 9th of Av. The Romans laid siege to the temple during the 3 weeks, and then on the 9th of Av, they burned it down. This fast that we're talking about, this period of fasting, is said by the Jews to date all the way back to the Exodus and the time when Moses sent the 10 spies into Israel to spy out the land to see if there was a way they could go in and take it as God had commanded. Well, the 10 spies, as you know, 8 of them came back with a bad report. 2 of them had a good report. But that resulted in defeat, a setback because of that lack of faith that God would help them to take the land. So the bad report supposedly was given on the 9th of Av. Other events that occurred on the 9th of Av, were the falling of the Bar Kokhba rebellion in AD 135 that resulted in the Jews being scattered all over the world. The expulsion of the Jews from England in the year 1290 occurred on the 9th of Av, and the expulsion of the Jews from Spain in 1492 occurred on the 9th of Av. And so this 3-week period from the 17th of Tammuz to the 9th of Av, called the Dark Time, commemorates horrific things that have happened to the nation Israel. And among other things, wars have been fought during that period. It's called the 3 weeks. It's called the Dark Time. And it is fascinating to me that it comes every summer. Micah, the prophet, talked about Israel being absolutely stripped naked during the summer. And summer is a metaphor in the Bible for the sort of disasters that we've been talking about. Micah chapter 7 says, "Woe is me, for I am as when they have gathered the summer fruits. As the grape gleanings of the vintage, there's no cluster to eat. My soul desired the first ripe fruit. The good man is perished out of the earth. There is none upright among men. They all wait for blood. They hunt every man his brother with a net." And so here Micah the prophet is lamenting this horrific summer, and if you read on in this prophecy, he's talking about an invasion that comes from the north, of all things. And many have said this is a reference possibly to the Battle of Gog, and it's also a reference to the impending judgments of the tribulation. Jesus himself talked about summer, and you may remember this in the Olivet Discourse. He actually uses the term Great Tribulation. You remember he talked about earthquake, famine, pestilence coming, and he said false prophets would arise, false Christs would arise, and he said, when you see this beginning to happen, then leave Judea. Don't even take anything with you. Hurry, lest you be caught on your way out. And in this context, Jesus says this, "Now learn a parable of the fig tree. When his branch is yet tender and putteth forth leaves, you know that summer is nigh. So, likewise, when ye shall see all these things, know that it is near, even at the door." We could talk a long time about this, but Jesus very specifically mentions summer as a time of disaster for Israel. He links the idea of summer, the blooming of the fig tree, and the impending judgments of the tribulation all together. And what we come up with then is a picture of what many experts who are watching Israel today have dubbed the summer war that is coming this summer. My candidate for that summer war would be the 3-week period between the 17th of Tammuz and the 9th of Av. Once again, if you missed it a minute ago, the dates for the 3 weeks this summer, it begins on June 29th, and it ends on July 20th. The dark time, the fasting period, a time when, who knows, a summer war might break out in Israel. Well, Gary Stearman with yet another Prophecy in the News update. Continue in prayer for JR. He's recovering, but he's still, of course, undergoing the effects of chemotherapy. He deeply desires your prayers. And we'll talk to you soon, but in the meantime, keep looking up.